Welcome back to another Photon Fusion 2 C# tutorial inside Unity. No, do not adjust your video. I am not sharing my webcam because I just woke up and I look like a rake. So we're going to jump into network properties today. So the network properties of the Photon documentation, it's pretty straightforward. And so we're going to do this, and then we're going to experiment with like syncing player names and setting up UI and stuff for that. So we're going to do this example first. So we already learned a little bit about network properties, such as the network transform, which we have on our player object, which is pretty straightforward. The network transform just keeps this position of the player synced across the network. All right, but now we're going to create a new script, and this is going to be called player color. And this is just an example on how you can sync player color across the network. And thank you to all my viewers and new subscribers. And everybody who watched the last video. Oh, I named it wrong. This is now our third episode in the series. If you've gotten this far and you haven't subscribed yet, maybe you should. Don't forget to like and comment down below. Of course, it helps the YouTube algorithm. If you want to help further, you can always go to my Patreon page, link in the descriptions, or come hang out in the Discord for extra help and just kind of to work with the community. It's good times. So let's open up this player color script. And I'm going to go ahead and real quick fix, well, you know, I don't need to fix that because we're just copying it straight from over here. All right, so we start with this, and let's talk about this section and what it does. All right, so this is just a typical class, right? It's another network behavior. So we have a mesh renderer that we're going to assign, although normally I would probably, since it's going to be on the player, I'd probably just get the component. And so we're seeing our first networked type variable. All right, and the network's type that we're doing is just a color, and it's a networked color. So unlike a typical color variable where you could just, end it here or assign it here, we're using these getSet properties. And this is a requirement for networked variable types. And if you hover over the network variable types in Visual Studio, you can see some helpful information here, except I think it's out of date. Because notice, I can't move my mouse because you won't see it, but notice after the initial paragraph where it's showing networked, on data received, name of my callback and all that jazz, that's not how we handle onChanged anymore. So I don't know if that still works. Of course, on data received is something new. It used to be like onChanged. That's with Fusion 2, that's not what the documentation shows. Maybe that works, maybe it doesn't, but we're not going to be doing that because that's not what the documentation is showing right now. But let's just dive into it. And so it's just going to be syncing this networked color over the network. We can probably go ahead and, did I save that? Yes, we can go ahead and add that to our bean. Where's our bean? Here. So we can come to our network capsule, and we can come over here, and we can add the player color. Boom. And you know what? Let's just go ahead and open them up anyways. And because it's wanting this mesh renderer component, so let's just go ahead and drop it in there. All right, back to our script. Back to the documentation. So keep in mind, remember did we talk about that in the previous one? Yes, I think we talked about that during the movement. So when you get key downs, it says don't do it in update. But if you do it in update, update it again in like fixed update network, it's a bit confusing. I was actually helping someone in the Photon Discord try to figure out why their key down was not syncing a bool correctly. And it all came down to like network ticks. And, bools change super fast. If get key down, if true, set bool to true, and then when it's no longer down, it's setting that bool to false. It happens so fast over the network, it's happening before the network ticks, so it wasn't syncing over the network. But when we were learning about movement and the movement documentation, it did give, here we have handling button presses. It said one of our options is to use the new Unity input system and set update mode to manual update and call input system update and fixed update network. That might be just mumbo jumbo to you, but it actually works. I tested it, and yeah, that is the solution for key downs. I'm already telling everybody to use the new input system anyways, which is funny because all of these examples from Photon are not using the new input system. But this does work. Using this method does work. Having to manually call input system update in fixed network update is a bit annoying, but it does work. But let's just continue with this example here. And we'll talk about why this works without changing the input types. So let's get our update method here. And let's keep it in our class. So this is just when you press E, it's going to change the networked color variable to a random color. And then we're going to have, in order for the network behavior to then do something when that network variable changes, we need this change detector. And so this is significantly different from how it worked in Fusion 1, and I don't really like it. But I imagine it's only here because it gets better performance. So I'll take it. And it's not overly difficult, it's just different. And we hate change, right? Hershey's bar unchanged since whatever. So what this does is we've now declared this private change detector, which is a Fusion thing. And we are basically creating it during spawn, which we can get this spawned callback from this network behavior. And this may seem like, well, how is this creating it? It's called get change detector. Well, just hover over it. It tells you it's creating the change detector. So it's weirdly named, but it's creating the change detector. All right. Back to the documentation. So then at the end of update, we actually need to iterate through the changes that were detected. So what this does is every change from this network behavior, from the network variables, is going to iterate through all of them. So it's going to find the name of the variable, which in this case is the networked color variable. And then, so if that has changed, it's going to do this stuff. And in this case, it's going to set the mesh renderer to, or the material of the mesh renderer to that networked color, right? So if we save and we go view it, you know, the last episode, I had like 3 thumbs ups, 1 thumbs down, and I wonder if it's because I didn't actually do a build test. I did build it later. That's why it's in my thumb. I included the image of it. But it does work on build. We'll do a build too because it builds so fast right now. So if we start shared client, I know we're by ourselves right now. Watch the bean over here. Press E. There we go. We're changing our color. Just tapping E, changing the color. And we'll do a build real quick so you can see it does indeed work over the network. And I don't even think I'm going to pause while it's building because it is really fast. Now I'll go ahead and pause it. All right, that was less than 10 seconds. It built. You can see build completed, and it took 12 seconds. There it is. We'll go ahead and start it over here in the editor. Start shared client. We're here. Let's just move out of the way a little bit. Start shared client over here. All right, move that little bean. Oh no, they're both yellow, but if I press E in the editor, it changed the color of both of them. All right, I think it's just because now it's not, but when I clicked on the editor, it was still considering this one over here on the right in focus too. But there we go. It's only changing the one over there, but if I click over here, is it going to try to change both? It sure is. And I don't know if that's because this one is still collecting inputs, but if it was me, I would still have a check here for state authority. Because if we go to, am I still playing? No, I'm not. Darn it. Let's play. Start shared client. Which one's me? That one's me. So if we look at the other guy, and we look at the network object, I'm looking to see, it's not showing state authority. Oh, runtime info. So we don't have state authority or input authority here, but on ours, we have both. But if I press E, it's still changing the colors of both of them. But again, I think that's just because they're both on my machine. Comment down below if you're like, no, you definitely need to do a state authority check, which I would be doing anyways. I probably wouldn't even be setting my logic up like this, but we're just going through the documentation for right now. So that works over the network with the caveat of maybe we want to have a state authority check first. The next thing we're going to do is, that's the end of that part of the documentation. Okay, that's the end. See, but we're going to go ahead and do something a little different than the documentation. Let's go ahead and sync a player name. So what we need is a canvas. Let's go to UI, canvas. And always on my canvas, first thing I like to do is come down to the scaler and scale it some way. Whoa, I can't see it. 1920 by 1080. All right, and I just keep it on width usually. And then let's do UI Text Mesh Pro input field. Let's go ahead and import the essentials. And let's go ahead and import the extras too so we can get some extra fonts. All right, that's all done. And yes, I was pausing during that to save you a few seconds of watch time. I didn't want text. I wanted input field. How did I choose that? There we go, input field. All right, now use too small. So let's create the width much bigger. I don't know, 600 by 300, by 900, and then maybe 200. That's not bad. All right, and then hopefully you know how to do this. I was kind of tempted to not show the UI part, but maybe you don't know how to do new UI, so I'm just going to kind of set it up here. What happens if I auto size this? It's maxing at a 72. Let's make it like 500. That did nothing different. Let's make sure it's stretched. Oh, there's no input. There we go. Okay. All right. So we're going to have the player's name there. So we're going to do, where's our placeholder text? Placeholder text. Can't see it because we also need to auto size this. Max 500. Great. All right, so we have our input field. And now we're going to create a button. And let's make its width 600. And let's make its height 200. And let's move it down. And let's get its text. Let's auto size it. And then submit name. Okay. So then what we need to do is, because we're using the prototype network runner, we don't want to see the GUI right away. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to change the start mode on the Bootstrap to manual. All right, now it's telling us, hey, make sure you call this, which is simple enough. We're going to click on the button, and on click, we're going to create an event. And then we're going to grab, is it this guy? No, it's this guy. Yeah, it's that guy. We're going to go back to the button now, grab the network start, drop it in here. And then we want to call Fusion Bootstrap. We want to call, where's it at? We want to start shared client. Great. Okay, and so we need something else too, is we need a way to save the name. I had to pause for a bit because I've been working on my team with Playmaker visual scripting so much. I'm like, how do I store a variable in C#? So I just sat here for a few minutes, but this is what we're going to do. Since we already have on the runner this player spawner, let's edit this player spawner script. And let's have a public string player name like that. And then I'm just going to declare it. Whoa, what are you doing? I'm just going to declare it as a null at the start. And then what we can do is come over here. And then blah, 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 blah. What are we going to do? On button click. On button click. I don't love this, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to also put in a public game object, and we're just going to call this our UI canvas. And then we're going to have a method for public void save name hide canvas. And then we also want a public text mesh pro, I think it's actually TMP input. Yes, TMP input field, name input field. And what we're going to do is we're going to say that player name equals, gotta love 2022 version of Visual Studio. It already got all of that. And then we're going to say UI canvas. Look at that. It already knows what I want to do. I stinking love Visual Studio 2022. If you're still using 2019, update to 2022. IntelliSense is just on steroids. It's so nice. And I think that might be it. Now we just go to our Unity and we go to our runner and we grab our canvas, we grab our input field, and then on our button, we're going to create another event here. And let's just go ahead and make it first. And then on this, we're going to go to our player spawner, and we're going to say save name, hide canvas. All right, the next thing we want to do is let's go to our Bean Boy. We'll come over here, and let's create a 3D object, and he's going to be Text Mesh Pro. All right, and he's going to be massive, apparently. We do not need him to be that big, but we want to move him like that. And let's decrease his size. I'm holding down Alt. Let's center him where he is. Holding down Alt and dragging just to make it drag down slower. I think that'll work. And we'll just say player. And then what are we doing over here? We have our player color script, which I wish we had a new script called like player info. Or, yeah, player info sync or something is what I would do so that we could sync the color and a bunch of other stuff. All right, real quick, let's take this text, and we're going to create a new script here, and we're going to call it look at camera. All right, and let's open this up. And what we're just going to do is we're just going to, what are we going to do? All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to do just a private, wow, I kind of knew what we were doing, doesn't it? We'll do private transform, and then we're just going to call this camera transform, and then private void start, camera transform equals, and this isn't, I could be doing null checks and whatnot, but I'm not going to. We're going to do camera.main. Oh, we got an error here because that's just getting the camera, so let's get the transform from that. And then on update, we're just going to do transform.lookAt camera transform. Boom. That should kind of do it. So in case you're not sure exactly what's happening here, so a transform is basically just the positions, rotations. It's just the component that keeps track of position rotation of a game object. So there's our camera transform. On start, we're just using this built-in Unity function to just get the main camera. This only works if your camera has the main camera tag on it. And then on update, whenever you just have transform like this, it's just going to get the transform that this mono behavior is on. So when we go back to Unity and we click on this text and we put the look at camera on it, I'm just gonna drag it over here. So there's nothing here to see really, but the transform is the transform that it's on, which is this text. So this should always look at the camera. We're gonna do a quick test though, real quick, because it might be facing the wrong way because UI likes to do that. Submit my name. Spawned. But why can't I see it? What? Oh, duh, because it's looking at the camera, but I need to see, it's not gonna, can't see my own in the, yeah, I'm not gonna see my own name. So let's build it real quick. Build and run. Cut me some slack this morning, guys. Like I said, I mean, sure, it's 8:50 now, but I have not been up. I've been up for a little while, but my brain's just not quite ready yet. All right, so let's put in some numbers, some letters. Come over here, I'll enter some stuff. All right, so now if we look at the other player, the name is backwards. So I kind of suspected that. So there's many fixes you can do for this, but the easiest is to go into the text and just scale it -1 on the X, and it'll look fine now. We're not going to build again, just trust me. Let's continue on with what we're going to do with the player's name. So, player capsule, what we are going to do now is, I guess we can create a new, do we want to create a new script or just continue to use player color? I think I'm going to continue to use player color, even though the name doesn't really make sense for us anymore. And we're going to, I'm just going to copy this just because I'm feeling a little lazy. Except now we're going to have a public, oh, you know what? We probably have to say because strings are special when you network sync them. Although I can't find, with Fusion 1 in the documentation, it wasn't easy to find, but I could find all the network variable types. It was kind of hidden in like one single page, but I found it. But with Fusion 2's documentation, I cannot find it. So I'm just kind of hoping that they're the same. But with strings, just like bools, we can have a network string. It does exist. I can't remember how to set the capacities for them, though. Let's just call this player name. All right, it's upset about it. Cannot be used as return types. All right, so I couldn't find a reference in the documentation, but I did see an example in the documentation. So we just need to say how long is our string going to be. So this looks like how we would set our capacity. So our player name does not need to be very big, but 64 is fine. So if we just come in here, see now it's showing us we can do size. So we're going to say 64. Is that what it was? Something's not right. Underscore 64. Underscore 64. Okay, now it seems happy. You know what? This is going to drive me nuts. So I'm going to come up here and I'm just going to call this player info now. I'm going to save it. I'm going to close it. I'm going to go back into Unity. I'm going to find my player color script. I'm going to rename it player info. All right. Now I'm going to look at my player capsule and see if it still has it. It does, and it's not upset about it. Wow, that's crazy. All right, so here we are. Now it's player info. All right, player name. Okay, so we also need a public text mesh pro input field. No. Where are we saving? We need to get the name. Where did we store the name? Did we put it on the runner? We put it on the runner. Yeah. Okay. On the spawner. On the spawner. Yes. Let's go to the spawner. And if the player is me, we're spawning the player. I'm tempted to call a method here, like set up a method on player info, but I think I'm going to go a different way first. I think what I will do is we're still going to have the public text mesh pro. Nope, not all that jazz. What is it? It's TMP Pro Text, right? That's the 3D one. And we'll just call it name display TMP. Okay. And then on change, we're going to do case name of player name. Is that what we called it? And really, it wants capital letters for network variables. So let's make it a capital P. All right. Case of player name. We're going to say that name display text mesh pro dot text equals player name dot to string, because we have to change it to a string because it's a network string. Why is it mad here? Probably because we don't have a break. There we go. All right, cool. So now if the network color changes, we're going to do the thing. And if the name changes, we're going to do the name change thing. And I still need to get the name. And I bet we could just do it in spawned, because this should be ready to go at this point. So if has state authority, and I think because it's a network behavior, I don't need to do anything else, like reference the runner or anything. If we have state authority, then the player name equals runner dot get component. I think we can do this because it's going to know where the runner is, and I think we can get the component from the game object that it's on. I could be wrong. We're going to get the component player spawner. And then from that, it's going to be getting the player name. All right. Let's just see if that works locally. So let's hit play. And my name is Philip. Submit. And we got a null reference. Oh, because we did not set the text mesh pro display. So let's go back over here. I did not. Player capsule. And then on the player info, we need to just put the name display text there. And let's hit play. My name is Philip. Submit name. And no errors. So that's good. So let's look and see what the name is. Looks like my name is Philip. Hey, we can even see it if we look up. Yeah, it's Philip. Okay. So now let's do a build and run. So build and run. Only took 7 seconds. Very nice. Also, I don't know if I mentioned this before. Whenever you build, if you try to create like a new folder for every single build, I think that's going to make them take longer. Whenever you can, always build to the same folder because Unity can reuse stuff and it's faster. Sorry, hopefully I didn't pause in the middle of talking. I had to go help a kid. All right, but did we build and run already? We did. All right, so now let's come over here and hit play. I'm going to come over here, and this is going to be my build Philip. Submit name, and this is going to be editor Philip. And submit name. And I should have chosen different colors, I think. But, oh, it didn't work. It worked locally. Why didn't it work over the network? So I just clicked on the build capsule, and as you can see, we're getting the networked name. So it's all getting networked correctly. I am just, I didn't set the text for some reason somehow. So I closed the play on the build and closed the play on the editor, and we're going to go take a look and see what I did wrong here. You know, it might not have detected the change. So what we could maybe on spawn, we should go ahead and set the text, because it might be that the fact that it's just coming in with the name already set, so it's not detecting the change. So we could probably do this in spawned as well. I'm just going to try it. I'm just going to try doing it in spawned. So rather than like start. So we're just going to say name display text mesh pro dot text equals player name dot toString, because we had to change it from a network string to a string. I bet that does it. Let's go build and run again. Oh, I want to do one more thing. I want to do transform form.gameObject.name equals the same thing. And I want to do this here as well. And so what this will do is this will name the game object so that we can see in the hierarchy who's who. All right, build has been completed. So we're going to say this is build Philip and submit name. And then over here, this is editor Philip and submit name. So hopefully, there we go. We have editor Philip. We have build Philip. And let's look at build Philip. Where's he at? Hey, there he is with his floating name. Ooh, and if we press E, I don't know why it's changing the color for both players over here. It shouldn't be. But I'm not worried about that. If it actually, I think it's just because it's collecting inputs from both because it's on the same machine. But yeah, I think that's all I wanted to do. Oh, no, it's not all I wanted to do today. So there's one more thing I wanted to do. And that is, how far are we in this recording? All right, so around 30-minute mark now. I think there's some stuff that I forgot to pause. I might have to cut some stuff out. I want to talk about, where's it at? Tutorials, shared mode basics, movement, and camera. I want to talk about the handling button presses using the new input system update mode, blah, 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 blah. All right. If you're not using the new input system, you should. It's just the thing you should be doing. It just makes everything so much easier. And so we're gonna set that up here. Currently it's set up to use, if we go to edit, first off, to get the new input system, you would go to Window, Package Manager, and then you would go to Unity Registry, and you would just search input, and there it is, input system. It's also got some great samples. You can also install like touch samples. Those are excellent because I believe it even gives you some like UI buttons that you can just put on screen and it'll hook up to the input system. All right, so once you have that, what it's going to do is it's going to set it in the player to be using both, which I'm going to keep for now because we're using, in this player info script, we're using get key down, input E. But you know what? Maybe we change that? Ah, well, we'll keep it both for now. But if you set it to just new, you wouldn't be able to use those. You wouldn't be able to use these get key down things anymore. All right, but what we're going to do is we're going to do a bool test. So let's say, what are we going to do? We need a new bool. So we're going to go, we're just going to copy this and we're going to paste and we're just going to call this is going to be a network bool. And this is going to be, E is pressed. I don't know. No, let's just do, I don't know what to call it. Let's just say E is pressed, okay? So we're already using E, right? And so if input get key down E, then we're going to say E is pressed equals true. And then let's come down to our change detector. And we're going to debug log E. I'm going to do E is pressed equals, and then E is pressed. Oh, I need a plus sign. All right. So this is going to show us what happens using the old input system. I almost said traditional, but it shouldn't be anymore. The new input system's been around for, I think, 5 years now. So the old input system, how this is going to work. Because what we want to see is when I press it on build, we should see it show up in the editor's log because it changed. So let's do a build and run. All right, so they're running on both build and the editor now. I cleared the console. All right, I'm about ready to press E in 3, 2, 1, E. Okay, it got it that time. E. What? This was totally not working. When I was helping someone yesterday. Why is it working now? Oh, because it's detecting the color change. That's why. Because that's static. So if we stop the color change, it won't work anymore because what we're seeing is that network color is changing. We don't want to do that. We want we don't want that here. We want that at case name of E is pressed. Yeah. So if E is pressed, we're going to take this debug log and we're going to debug log. So we can keep changing the colors so that you guys can truly believe that I am indeed pressing E. Build and run again. All right, we're back. And I'm going to press E. It worked once, but now it's not changing anymore. Now that could just be because the bool isn't changing because we set it for true and it never went false again, right? So let's make it go false again. And if you remember, it said you can query for the button down and update, store the bool, but then clear it at the end of fixed update network. So we need to create fixed update network. So void fixed update network, right? I don't think that's how that works. No, it needs to be, let's look at player movement. Public override void fixed update network. Okay, so public over. No, I did not say public API. Public escape. Override void. There we go. Fixed update network. Then we're going to set. Why is this mad? Oh, because I put you in the middle of update. Okay. And now get rid of that. All right, it's happy. So in fixed update network, we are now going to set E is pressed is false. I don't really like this example that much. But you'll see. Okay. Let's build and run. All right, pressing E. Boom. Nothing. It's not detecting the change because the bool is going from true to false super fast. Now I can try to spam E and maybe we can get the console to show up. And just so you can see that I'm actually doing it, let's focus on Shift F. All right, there's build fill up right there. E. So, all right, so it's not detecting the bool change because it's basically happening in the same frame. And it's happening before the network tick can even see that anything's happening. Okay. So let's see what happens if we do what they suggested in the documentation, which is using the new input system. So let's close this guy and let's come over here and we need to go to edit project settings and we need to go to input system package. So when you first open this will all be grayed out and there'll be like a button at the top to say like create asset. So you have to do that. Click that button and you come here. And I think it's normally set to dynamic update, but we're going to set it to process events manually. All right. And then in the scene, we also want, so this can also see that we are using the old input system. Maybe we want to use the new one. So I'm going to go ahead and tell it to replace it to use the new one, the new input module. And I don't think I have, I just need to check real quick. Do I have a player input component? Can't really remember if it's exactly required. Just scrolling through to see if I have one. There it is. Yeah, it's this guy. All right, player input component. I'll just call this player input. All right. I think this is required to have in your scene somewhere so that it can manage your inputs and it can switch. Like if you decide, if all of a sudden you switch to a gamepad or whatnot. So this came with, in the samples, the input system. I didn't install these. They just came. I might have to install the demo scene. Yeah, I had to install the demo scene from the samples. So I went to package manager. You don't have to do this. And then the simple demo I installed because I knew it would create an input action asset, but you can just do that yourself too. So if we wanted to, we could create a folder called input actions, and then inside here go to create, it's here somewhere. Oh man, it's been a while since I've created one of these. Where's it? Oh, there's input actions. Is that it? Yeah, there it is. And so we could have one, but it's empty. And I like installing the samples because I'm lazy and I don't have to create any. So I'm just gonna delete that. And then once you have it in your scene, you can also just double click on the actions asset right there. And then what we're going to do is I'm just going to create a new one called color change. And then the binding is going to be keyboard. And for some reason, I don't know if this is a bug or if it's just my machine. This little pop-up panel for me, it's hiding the input field back here, which this button here that's hidden is like listen for input. So I'm going to click that, hit E, then we got E on the keyboard. And this should just be good. I need to make, that is a button, and it should just work. All right, so let's save that asset. I usually auto-save it. And so what we need to do on our player info is we need, this is how I like to do it. I like to do a public input action reference. And I'm going to call this my E input reference. And you would call it something else like fire, look, whatever. This is just because we're using the E key, I'm just going to do it like this. And then I'm going to have a private input action be the E action. All right, you don't have to do it like this either. This is just the way I do it because what we're going to be referencing this input action. This input action is stored in this input action reference. You could bypass this and you could do just a public input action and you could choose it, but I prefer to use the input action references. And so then in awake, private void awake, I'm just going to say that E action equals, what do we call it? E input reference dot action. Okay, so we now have the action. And then on update, what I'm going to do is instead of this little bit, we're going to say if E action dot is pressed, and then I got to do that guy. Okay, if E action is pressed, we're going to do this. And then in fixed update network, we're going to call input system dot update. And I think we got to do that guy. Yeah. I don't know why you unindented yourself, but I think this should now work. Let's now do a build and run. One more thing before building and running. I just did a quick test and I couldn't click on my inputs anymore. And it's because this input system is looking for the input actions asset default input actions, which is the one that I probably should have used when I set this up. But we're going to see if switching to simple controls work, but it might not because I don't know if UI is set up for it. So I'm going to test this real quick. All right, I couldn't figure out what's going on, so I just deleted the event system, and we're just going to add it back, and we're just going to leave it with the standalone input module. It's normally I don't run with both of them running. I usually just run with just the new one running, but now if I hit play, I can interact with the UI. And so just delete the input system, add it back, and just keep the standalone input module. Sorry, another mistake. Go to the network prefab, player capsule, and I forgot to set the input action reference to the color change. I should have named it color change. Why did I name it E is pressed? That's so dumb. Oh well. I'm going to do another build and run. I had to go watch my video I made for someone else last night in the Discord to see why is this not working, and it's because we don't do this anymore because it's always going to be false. We're going to do get rid of that. So we can still do the color change up here. That should still be fine. But this is going to be what's our bool called? E is pressed. Tab equals our E, I can't remember the name of everything, underscore E action. E action is pressed. So this bool will be whatever this bool is. So if pressed, it'll be true. If it's not, it'll be false. So I'm going to do build and run again. All right, here we are on build. I'm over here on the build version. Press E, and as you can see, E is pressed is true and then false. E is true and then false. So this is now getting synced. The quick true-false flip is getting synced over the network. But this will not work if you're using the old input system. So if you want to be able to do a down-up style button press, you're going to want to use a new input system and follow those steps in documentation. All right, that brings us to the end of this video. Hold on a second. I had to turn on my Patreon. Thanks, Paige. Thanks to my Patrons. Sorry this episode was a little bit more of a mess than usual, but network variables can be kind of weird, and everything's been changed in Fusion 2 compared to Fusion 1. But now you know. If you have any questions, please ask them down below, or come ask me in my Discord, and that'll also motivate what future videos will be. We're going to continue on with the documentation, but if you have suggestions on where we should take it after we finish this documentation series, like if we should, I'm leaning right now towards like a board game, like, comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you next time.